Thank you. Thank you very much. In preparing my talk for this occasion, I started from the assumption that, like so many others, you are concerned about the fact that in less than a couple of years we will arrive at a new millennium. In addition to our computers, which are close to having a nervous breakdown in anticipation of the year 2000, there's a great deal of frantic talk about the 21st century and how it will pose for us unique problems of which we know very little, but for which nonetheless we are supposed to carefully prepare. Now, everyone seems to worry about this, business people, politicians, theologians, educators. So if you'll not think me patronizing, I should like to begin by putting your minds at ease. I doubt that the 21st century will pose problems for us that are more stunning, disorienting, or complex than those we faced in this century, or the 19th, or the 18th, or the 17th, or for that matter, many of the centuries before that. But if there's anyone here who is excessively nervous about the new millennium, I can give you right at the start some good advice about how to confront it. And the advice comes from people whom we can trust and whose thoughtfulness, it's safe to say, exceeds that of President Clinton, Newt Gingrich, or even Bill Gates. Here's what Henry David Thoreau said: "All our inventions are but improved means to an unimproved end." Here's what Goethe told us: "One should each day try to hear a little song, read a good poem, see a fine picture, and, if possible, speak a few reasonable words." Socrates told us the unexamined life is not worth living. Rabbi Hillel said, "What is hateful to thee, do not do to another." And here is the prophet Micah: "What does the Lord require of thee but to do justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with thy God?" And I could tell you, if we had the time, although you know it well enough, what Confucius, Isaiah, Jesus, Mohammed, the Buddha, Spinoza, and Shakespeare told us. It's all the same. There's no escaping from ourselves. The human dilemma is as it has always been, and it is a delusion to believe that the technological changes of our era have rendered irrelevant the wisdom of the ages and the sages. Nonetheless, having said this, I know perfectly well that because we do live in a technological age, we have some special problems that the sages did not and could not speak of. For example, all of us are aware that last year, scientists in Scotland successfully cloned a sheep. I think her name is Dolly. Another group of scientists in America have cloned a monkey, and apparently a high school student, in order to gain extra credit, claims to have cloned a frog. Now, we can expect, I think we've all read about this in the last few days, if not this year or the next, that the cloning of human beings will be a reality. Now, I think we can say that we have here a genuine 21st century problem. It would be interesting, wouldn't it, to speculate on what Jesus or the Buddha would say about this development in human reproduction. Well, we'll have to address this matter without them. Now, how will we do that? Who has an answer we'll find acceptable? Now here is one I imagine most of you will find unacceptable. Cloning human beings opens up a whole new field of human spare parts. The way it would work is that every time someone is born, a clone of this person would be made. The clone would be kept in a special, confined, and well-guarded place so that it could provide spare parts for the original person as needed throughout life. If the original person loses a kidney or lung at some time in his or her life, we would simply take it from the clone. Now, I know you will protest that the clone is, after all, a real human being. But that would only be the case if we define the clone as a human being. There's nothing new in human beings defining other human beings as non-human things. In all cases of genocide, that is exactly the procedure. Aldous Huxley wrote about how to do such things, although he did so ironically and bitterly. In our own times, Marvin Minsky and others working in the field of artificial intelligence have prophesied quite enthusiastically that humans will become merely pets of their computers, so that the definition of the worth and capacity of humans will change. Now, I hope you are thinking that my proposal is simply a bad joke, and that any such proposal seriously made is a product of a depraved mind. Well, of course, I agree with you. But it is difficult not to be depraved in the era in which we live. Here, for example, are a few sentences from a very popular book called Being Digital by Nicholas Negroponte, who is, not surprisingly, a professor at MIT. He says, and I quote, "In the next millennium, we will find we are talking as much or more with machines than we are with humans. What seems to trouble people most," he says, "is their self-consciousness about talking to inanimate objects." Now, Negroponte envisions a time when we may speak to a doorknob or a toaster, and he predicts that when we do, we will find the experience no more uncomfortable than talking to a telephone answering machine. He has nothing to say about how we may become different by talking to doorknobs, as we already have become different by talking to telephone answering machines. Negroponte is concerned only that we adapt to our technological future. He nowhere addresses the psychic or social meaning of adaptation. People are quite capable of adapting to all sorts of things. Soldiers adapt themselves to killing. Children adapt themselves to being fatherless. Women can adapt themselves to being abused. I have no doubt that we can adapt ourselves to talking much more to machines than to people. We may even come to prefer it. But adaptation ought not to be equated with sanity.